Perhaps viewers have not seen this phenomenal, super popular drama, but they are certainly familiar with this famous scene.
Get your weapons out, boys, and load them up. Take your time. Hold them up in the air so as they can see what we've got. All guns and no balls, right, Billy boy?
All 6 seasons of the drama have ratings above 9 points. It cleverly blends elegance and violence perfectly. It is not only a model of fashion and style but also considered a mandatory course for successful men. It is even compared to the most classic gangster film series, The Godfather, and is not inferior at all. The drama is adapted from the legendary story of the British gang, the Peaky Blinders. In 1919 Birmingham, violence is the only universal language. The Shelby family is the poet of this language. They wear suits, coats, and newsboy caps. Sharp razor blades are sewn into the brim of their hats. This is not only their unique symbol but also a terrifying weapon. Therefore, they earn the name Peaky Blinders. Everyone in Birmingham fears and respects them. Even the police are no exception. The Peaky Blinders have a total of 5 core members. The eldest brother, Arthur Shelby, is well-built, impulsive, and fierce in the family's struggle against enemies. He plays a crucial helpful role. He is the family's leader. The second eldest brother, Tommy Shelby, is wise and steady. To outsiders, he is ruthless, cruel, and efficient, but inwardly, he values loyalty and righteousness. He cares about the interests of his family and friends. He is the family's de facto leader. The third eldest brother, John Shelby, is violent and lacks independent thought, but he always considers the family. The fourth eldest sister, Ada Shelby, is passionate, but due to the threats of her 3 older brothers, few people in Birmingham dare to date her. Their aunt, Polly Shelby, is experienced and very wise. In the few years the 3 brothers enlisted, she manages the entire family. She is the backbone of the Shelby family. In addition, there is the 5th eldest brother, Finn Shelby. Although he is only 10 years old, he also does not disgrace the family's name. With these qualities, they, in Birmingham's underworld, secure a foothold. But this small achievement cannot satisfy Tommy at all. So he comes alone to Garrison Lane. They cast an Eastern pink magic spell on the racehorse.
They're doing a magic spell to make her win a race.
The horse's name's Monaghan Boy. Kempton, 3 o'clock, Monday. You ladies have a bet yourselves, but don't tell anyone else.
Tommy bets that these people will spread the word. This way, he can continue with his subsequent plan. Things turn out exactly as he expects. Human nature proves vulnerable in the face of profit. Now, if he just lets these people win one more time, more people will place bets. Then they will close the net in the 3rd race. Seeing that most of Birmingham has placed bets, Arthur cannot help but panic. If such blatant manipulation of the races is exposed, they will not only lose most of a year's income, but also simultaneously offend the Chinese and Billy Kimber, especially the latter, as it is said that he has an army under his command. But Tommy does not care about these things at all. The Peaky Blinders betting stalls have never had a legal license. If this plan can succeed, they will not only get a license, but also replace Billy Kimber and take the top spot in Birmingham's horse racing industry. However, plans never keep up with changes. This day, Arthur receives news that an inspector named Campbell arrives from Belfast. It is said that Campbell was previously responsible for eradicating Fenian elements, and his methods are extremely tough. Currently, the Birmingham Police Department extensively recruits. Obviously, Campbell is about to make a big move. Everyone is very worried that it will affect the family business. Tommy sees this and quickly points the finger at the Bolshevik revolutionaries. These people recently have been inciting the workers at the small arms factory to strike. Although he speaks logically and with evidence, his facial expressions are also perfectly controlled. But how could he hide it from Aunt Polly? After the meeting ends, he is called to the church. Tommy sees this and has no choice but to confess everything. Some time ago, a client from London wants several motorcycles. So he sends his subordinates to steal from the small arms factory's warehouse. Who would have thought his subordinates get drunk and mistake the wrong box? After they return to Uncle Charlie's house, they discover that inside are 25 Lewis machine guns. And they are also aid supplies meant for Libya. Now, Churchill sends Campbell here. It is very likely to trace these weapons.
Tell me you threw them in the cut.
We put them in the stables out of the rain. The guns hadn't been greased yet.
Indignant, Aunt Polly takes matters into her own hands. She knows well that stealing government weapons is a serious crime. Once detected by the police, the entire family faces utter destruction. She tells Tommy to quickly take the firearms and throw them where the police can find them. She attempts to appease the anger of those in charge. But Tommy has his own plans. His eyes are like unexploded dynamite. Beneath his calm lies the madness of an entire era. Afterward, Tommy goes to Uncle Charlie's yard, has his men repackage the firearms, and hide them in a more secluded dock. He firmly believes that if handled properly, reselling the weapons not only brings immense wealth but also elevates the family's status, making the Peaky Blinders true overlords. Uncle Charlie attempts to stop him, but he is interrupted before he can finish speaking.
That's right. They've shown their hand.
Their hand.
If they want them back this bad, they'll have to pay. That's the way of the world. Fortune drops something valuable into your lap, you don't just dump it on the back of the cut.
In Tommy's heart, opportunities and risks coexist. He is willing to bet everything for the family's future. What Tommy does not expect is that the new Inspector Campbell is much more difficult than he imagines. On his first day in office, he has new recruits take over all important positions. As a result, the Shelby family becomes completely blind within the police force.
These are the new men who will bolster your ranks. Good men from God-fearing families. By the time the sun sets, they will be sworn in and in uniform, and by sunrise tomorrow, they will be on the streets. God help those who stand in our way.
Unaware of this, Arthur takes two girls to the movie theater. But before the girls can take out his instrument, the police rush in from behind.
What the fuck? What the fuck are you? Come off the fucking Shelby!
However, a beating is his only response. And then Campbell appears before him. The inspector is indeed just as the legends say. Truly the bane of the Irish Republican Army. What is pitiful is that Arthur has no knowledge of the stolen weapons.
After 35 years dealing with animals like you, I can tell just by snuffing the air whether or not you're lying.
He vehemently denies lying. He asks if they understand. He insists he is not lying. Campbell sees that Arthur is indeed not lying, so he lets him go back. When Tommy and Polly hear Campbell wants the Peaky Blinders to be his eyes and ears, their expressions instantly become serious. Arthur does not notice their reactions. He plans to hold a family meeting, preparing to use this opportunity to bridge the gap between the two sides and solidify the family's position in Birmingham. Looking at his excited older brother, Tommy does not know whether he should tell Arthur the truth. Just as he hesitates, things take a new turn. His friend Danny's post-war syndrome flares up again, and he kills an Italian man on the street. At this time, the Peaky Blinders can only fight the Italian gang to a draw. If war breaks out, both sides will suffer. Left with no choice, Tommy reaches a settlement with the Italians, and the condition is that H personally kills Danny. In front of the Italians, Tommy aims the gun at his friend's head. With a gunshot, he falls onto the boat. He sees Tommy's blood-soaked face. The Italian men leave satisfied. Afterward, Tommy specifically builds a grave for him. But inside, the weapons are buried. In this way, Tommy successfully fools everyone with a sheep's brain. As for him, he is currently on Mr. Charlie's boat heading to London to help Tommy complete an important mission, which is to spread news to the Irish Republican Army, who desperately needs weapons. And even more miraculously, after his head is hit by the sheep's brain, his post-war syndrome is miraculously cured. He is now a member of the Peaky Blinders. Tommy's wisdom and decisiveness are once again fully displayed in the crisis. He cleverly uses the situation to resolve the family's crisis and also paves a new path for the family's future. Next, Tommy begins to implement his second step of Plan 3. He brings his brothers to the Lee family's territory, intending to buy a white steed from these gypsies. Arthur thinks Tommy wants to trade a car for it and quickly speaks up to stop him. But before he finishes speaking, he is mocked by the Lee family.
You Lee boys are laughing at my brother. Are ya? Hey, Tommy! Tommy! I asked you a question.
His friends feared Tommy and the Lee family becoming enemies. They quickly stand between the two sides, trying to persuade them, but the three members of the Lee family refuse to give up. One of them insults Tommy's mother, calling her a gypsy whore. Upon hearing this, Tommy instantly loses his mind, his eyes turning red as he fiercely takes off his hat and uses all his strength to slap it on the man's face. Immediately after, Arthur and John also start fighting. The Shelby family has a glorious history of producing kings, but their mother is a gypsy, which makes their bloodline not pure. In addition, most people have deep discrimination against gypsies. Therefore, they have always been unwilling to mention this matter. But if one thinks this is just an impulse, then they greatly underestimate Tommy. Firstly, he is declaring to the world that if prejudice wants to crush them, they will burn a way out with more explosive flames. This cruel philosophy of survival runs through the narrative of the entire series. Secondly, the Shelby family is currently at a critical stage. This transaction is not just about buying horses, it is also about sending a signal to the outside world, indicating that the Shelby family acts decisively. In other words, even if the three men do not cause trouble, Tommy finds an opportunity to act. At the same time, Campbell takes all his men to the Peaky Blinders territory while the three brothers are not home. He conducts a large search of the entire area on the pretext of arresting Bolshevik revolutionaries. Many innocent people suffer injuries. Their houses and shops are even more extensively damaged. Coincidentally, the head of the Bolshevik party actually lives here at this moment and is intimate with his girlfriend. This man's name is Freddie Thorne. He once saves Tommy's life on the battlefield. After returning, he joins the Bolshevik party and becomes the head of the Birmingham region. The small arms factory strike is his doing. His girlfriend is none other than Ada, the youngest sister of the Shelby family. The two begin secretly dating a long time ago. Ada calls him the bravest man. After all, in Birmingham, besides him, no one else dares to date a Shelby girl. After settling Ada, Freddie immediately runs towards the outskirts of the city. He believes that as long as he survives, there is always hope. However, as soon as he leaves, the police find a prescription with Ada's name on it in his room. And this becomes evidence of the Peaky Blinders' collusion with the Bolsheviks. Seeing that his subordinates haven't found even a single bullet, Campbell immediately comes to the church again, suspecting the Peaky Blinders hide the weapons in this sacred place. But before he finishes speaking, Aunt Polly stops him.
Sorry. Misunderstood your intention when you pushed me against the wall.
Seeing this, Campbell stops wasting words, directly opens the side door, and lets his subordinates come in to search. He then tells Aunt Polly to inform Tommy to meet at the Leach Tea House at 10 a.m. on Friday. Soon after, Tommy and his group finally return, leading their horses. Seeing the miserable scene on the street, the three brothers immediately feel something is wrong. What they didn't expect even more was that the police actually tell the residents that this search is conducted with Arthur's permission. And they even say their horse buying is intentional evasion, clearly trying to tarnish the Peaky Blinders' reputation. Aunt Polly tells everyone to quickly get to work. Tommy, understanding the situation, asks his older brother to step forward and calm the people. He specifically tells everyone to bring money because he clearly knows that no amount of apologies is as effective as compensating for losses. After everyone had left, Aunt Polly brought up the topic of guns again. But Tommy's attitude is firm, and he remains unmoved. Seeing this, Aunt Polly didn't beat around the bush anymore and directly brought up Cambay's request for a meeting.
Will you talk to him?
No. You don't parley when you're on the back foot. We'll strike a blow back first.
Tommy's eyes revealed determination and courage. He knows that if he shows weakness now, it will only make his opponents more reckless. He must take the initiative to gain the upper hand in this power struggle. At the same time, Churchill personally arrives in Birmingham. The Irish Republican Army is becoming increasingly active. If these firearms fall into their hands, the empire will immediately face a revolution. Therefore, they must recover them as quickly as possible.
If there are bodies to be buried, dig holes, and dig them deep. I want everything accounted for, down to the last bullet.
However, he underestimates the gang. That night, Tommy is on the street openly burning all the king's portraits nearby. Soon, reporters receive the news and rush over. Tommy has no intention of hiding anything and directly tells the reporters to report the truth. Most men in Birmingham have participated in the war. Tommy even wins the military medal in the Battle of the Somme. Now, they are attacked right at their doorstep. They do not want the king to see this miserable scene. So they burn the portraits. The truth is just as Tommy expects. As soon as the newspaper enters the review process, it is stopped by the authorities. Immediately after, Campbell receives a phone call. Listening to Churchill's hysterical roar, Campbell quickly suggests arresting the people who burned the portraits. But Churchill immediately refuses him.
If there are arrests, there will be trials. If there are trials, there will be more newspaper reports, which will necessarily mention the burning of the king's likeness. I put you in Birmingham for one very specific reason. Are you any nearer to finding those stolen guns?
We are making steady progress.
We need results.
After saying this, Churchill hangs up the phone, giving Campbell no chance to speak. This is the overt scheme Tommy sets for him. At this moment, Campbell finally realizes Tommy is much harder to deal with than his previous opponents. So Campbell decides to change his approach to finding the weapons. He decides to use a honey trap to get close to Tommy. In order to quickly infiltrate the Peaky Blinders, Campbell does not hesitate to send out the object of his long-standing affection, who is also his friend's daughter, Grace. He makes her work as a waitress in the bar the Peaky Blinders frequent.
So what shall I do?
It hurts me as much as it would a father sending his own daughter into a whorehouse, but no matter how repugnant it may be, you must do everything you can to get close to him. And
Campbell is too embarrassed to continue. But Grace understands exactly what he means. It must be said, Campbell is indeed a ruthless person. In order to complete the mission and get another promotion, he even uses the woman he loves as a pawn. Soon Grace arrives at the bar with a letter of introduction. The truth is just as Campbell expects. Tommy is indeed suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Whenever he is alone, those cruel scenes from the war always appear in his mind like a nightmare. Sometimes he is even woken up by the sound of digging tunnels. But due to his status, he has no one to confide in about his inner pain. In order to get a good night's sleep, Tommy can only rely on alcohol and opium to numb himself. On Saturday night, Grace sings at the bar. Her voice, like an angel's kiss, captivates the rough men in the bar. However, the Peaky Blinders always prohibit singing in bars. Tommy happens to witness this scene. The customers, like naughty children, quickly turn away and hide. Only Grace continues to sing to herself. With her golden hair shining like the sun and deep, captivating blue eyes, Grace now resembles a delicate flower blooming in a vulgar environment. Tommy is involuntarily deeply attracted to her. However, the third horse race is more important at the moment, with the first two races as a prelude. This time, almost everyone in Birmingham participates in the betting. As the money on the table increases, the brothers become very excited. Images of driving new cars appear in their minds. But before the race even begins, Aunt Polly brings bad news. When he learns that Ada not only secretly has a boyfriend but is also pregnant with his child, Tommy becomes furious. He immediately rushes to the cinema to confront her.
Has to tell me his fucking name.
Freddie fucking Thorne. Yeah, your best mate's in school, the man who saved your life in France. So go on, cut him. Cut him up and chuck him in the cut.
At this moment, Tommy feels both anger and helplessness. Deep down, he does not actually oppose them being together. But Freddy's identity is a powerful bomb. Once detonated, the entire Shelby family could be blown to smithereens. If it were anyone else, Tommy could easily resolve this crisis. But the difficulty lies in Freddy being his savior. Just as he feels helpless, Polly walks over.
So Monaghan boy finally lost?
Third time unlucky. He took money from all over the city.
Yeah, but you'll pay it back to people around here. Buy your popularity back.
Already done.
Taught you well. And you fixed this race without the permission of Billy Kimber? Obviously didn't teach you well enough. Rule 1, you don't punch above your weight.
Tommy directly interrupts Polly, but he does not explain his purpose. Because in his opinion, if anyone in the family could guess his plan, the Shelby family might have already obtained a legal license and would not need him to put in so much effort. This is Tommy's pain. He sits in the second position, worries like the boss, and still suffers criticism from his family from time to time. This is like many people in life who silently contribute to their families but are not understood. Those who understand him say he is worried. Those who do not understand him ask what he seeks. Tommy's helplessness and loneliness are evident. Seeing that Tommy is determined to offend Billy Kimber, Polly stops talking nonsense and directly takes a letter from her bag. When he learns that Ada wants him to give it to Freddy, Tommy immediately throws it into the furnace.
Damn them for what they did to you in France!
Listening to his aunt's roaring, Tommy sighs in disappointment. One problem arises after another. Uncle Charlie brings back a bullet from the Lee family, and Tommy's name is clearly engraved on it. This means that the Lee family declares formal war on the Peaky Blinders. In just 1 month, Tommy first hides weapons, then he messes with Billy Kimber's business, and now he makes a mortal enemy of the Lee family. Uncle Charlie is very confused by this.
It's Thomas Shelby against the old bloody world, right?
Tommy does not answer. Instead, he turns and leaves directly. The current situation has become extremely severe. Compared to his family's emotions, the urgent task is to devise a countermeasure. Afterward, Tommy comes to the Licky tea rooms. He plans to first stabilize the police situation and then deal with the threats from Billy Kimber and the Lee family. However, before he can speak, Campbell drops a bombshell. When he learns that the police found Ada's prescription in Freddy's room, Tommy immediately understands Campbell's objective, so he simply confesses everything.
I have what you're looking for.
Campbell is instantly taken aback. For days, he racks his brain making arrests, conducting searches, and arranging undercover agents, but he never expects the answer to be right in front of him. But before he can recover, Tommy proposes 7 conditions. In summary, he wants the police to tacitly approve all Peaky Blinders activities. The police no longer arrest Freddy. In exchange, after the Peaky Blinders completely replace Billy Kimber's position, Tommy truthfully reveals the hiding place of the weapons. Seeing Tommy's exorbitant demands, Campbell instantly becomes furious. But immediately after, he understands why Tommy is so fearless. It turns out Tommy had already instructed his subordinates before coming that if he is detained by the police for any reason, the guns will be transported to Liverpool and then transferred to Belfast to be sold to the Irish Republican Army. At that time, a revolutionary war will fully break out. Campbell also understands the stakes involved, but he truly cannot offer a winning chip. Just like this, Tommy successfully wins a glimmer of hope for his family. Subsequently, the brothers go to a bar to drink away their sorrows. John, who longs to get married, advises Tommy to find a woman. Unexpectedly, Arthur dismisses this idea.
Fast women and slow horses will ruin your life.
Just then, a car stops at the entrance of the bar.
Holy shit. It's Billy Kimber.
Is there any man here named Shelby? I said, is there any man here named Shelby?
Seeing that it is Billy Kimber, Tommy immediately dismisses the customers in the bar. He then lowers his stance and tells Grace to bring out the best liquor. However, Billy Kimber not only ignores his gesture of goodwill but also continuously mocks their lineage.
By the way, which one am I talking to? Who's the boss?
Well, I'm the oldest.
Clearly.
Are you laughing at my brother?
Right, he's the eldest, you're the thickest. I'm told the boss is called Tommy, and I'm guessing that's you, because you're looking me up and down like I'm a fucking tart.
I want to know what you want.
Seeing the assistant next to him take over the conversation, Tommy rudely retorts.
Which one am I talking to? Which one of you is the boss?
I'm Mr. Kimber's advisor and accountant.
And I'm the fucking boss, okay? Right, end of parley. You fixed the race without my permission. You fucking gypsy scum. What, live off the war pensions of these poor old Garrison Lane widows? That's your level. I am Billy Kimber. I run the races, and you fixed one of them, so I'm going to have you shot against the post.
After speaking, Billy Kimber turns to leave. Seeing this, Tommy shows no panic, but instead throws the bullet engraved with his name. He understands that the Lee family has always been stealing and robbing at the racetrack. But because they are too cunning, Billy Kimber loses both reputation and profit and is helpless. Tommy reveals his bargaining chip, stating that they can work together to solve this problem. Billy Kimber is very interested, but as an old-school gang leader who controls Birmingham's horse racing industry, how could he lower himself so quickly? Tommy also understands this principle, so he immediately flatters Billy Kimber.
I admire you, Mr. Kimber. You started with nothing and built a legitimate business. It would be an honor to work with you, Mr. Kimber.
Flattery is indeed effective on a crude person like Billy Kimber, but his status is still there, so he still needs a way to save face.
Pick it up, Pikey.
Facing this blatant humiliation, Tommy shows no hesitation. He directly stops his younger brother and picks up the silver coin. As his body slowly straightens, the hatred between the two sides completely vanishes. And the Shelby family also breaks through the shackles with this, walking out of Birmingham.
We will be at Cheltenham.
As will I.
But unexpectedly, just 2 days later, his subordinate brings bad news. The white stallion contracts foot and mouth disease. When he learns there is currently no treatment, Tommy has no choice but to painfully end the white horse's suffering. After dealing with all of this, Tommy drags his heavy body to the bar to drown his sorrows. Unexpectedly, the boss has already left work, leaving only Grace, as the most outstanding trainee in the agent training class. Grace clearly knows what Tommy needs now, so she actively approaches to listen. Under the influence of alcohol, Tommy's usual rock-solid facade finally gradually comes down.
You know, in France, I got used to seeing men die. Never got used to seeing horses die. They die badly.
After saying that, Tommy asks Grace to sing a song for him.
Happy or sad?
Sad.
Okay. But I warn you, I'll break your heart.
Already broken.
As Grace's singing begins, Tommy immediately becomes lost in the sad melody, and the pain and suppression in his heart slowly begin to release. From then on, the looks they exchange become increasingly ambiguous. Then Tommy even invites Grace to Billy Kimber's racetrack and also gives her money to prepare a red dress. Soon Campbell receives the news. Although it has nothing to do with firearms, at least there is hope. As the Empire's toughest inspector, he does not want to be arbitrarily manipulated by a gang leader. However, Campbell overlooks a crucial point. How could someone as ambitious as Tommy so easily succumb to the comforts of love? The reason he approaches Grace is more because Billy Kimber gave her an extra look at the bar. During this waiting period, members of the Irish Republican Army come knocking. They hope to purchase the stolen firearms and also promise to pay double the market price. Tommy always refuses to admit he has a gun. Obviously, he does not really want to make a move. He just wants to create pressure for Campbell, making him willingly become the Razor Gang's protector. But while Tommy works hard for his family, his younger sister secretly marries the man, completely disregarding the disaster this might bring. After Aunt Polly receives the news, she directly gives the two of them a sum of money, telling them to settle in New York, America, although Campbell agrees to stop the arrests. The prerequisite is that they leave Birmingham. But to Aunt Polly's dismay, the man refuses to give up his career no matter what, even when Tommy intervenes and holds a gun to his head. Seeing his savior so stubborn, Tommy has no other choice. So he warns the man not to appear in Razor Gang territory in the future. What he does not expect is that the man then organizes a strike meeting, which is undoubtedly blatant provocation to Campbell. At the same time, the woman is tailing members of the Irish Republican Army, originally wanting to find the location of the hidden weapons through this. But the other party discovers her. In a moment of desperation, she can only shoot the man dead. Campbell is very angry after receiving the news. He reprimands her for bringing personal emotions into the mission. He shows no regard for her feelings. He also gives her no chance to explain. At this moment, Grace feels immense heartache. She joined the agent training camp precisely to avenge her father, who died at the hands of the Irish Republican Army. If it were not to repay Campbell's kindness, she would never come to this place. At this moment, Grace's heart quietly changes. Meanwhile, Tommy also remains busy. He deliberately goes to the tailor shop to run into Kimber and takes the opportunity to reveal the latest intelligence he has.
And I know they're going to be at the Cheltenham races as well.
Yes, well, they're going to lose a lot of money on fast women and slow nags.
Oh. They're planning on showing up in numbers and robbing your bookies, running chalk and rafflers.
You think I can't handle the Lees?
Just a word of warning. From a friend, that's all. I'll see you at Cheltenham.
I'll wave at you from my box. If you are coming to the races, bring that pretty barmaid of yours.
Already invited.
Just as Tommy finally handles Kimber, Arthur's depression relapses. Currently, rumors spread all over Birmingham that the Peaky Blinders stole military weapons. He also kills the Irish Republican Army. But as the boss, he knows nothing about it. Seeing his older brother in great pain, Tommy quickly reveals everything. He then takes him to the bar. When he learns his younger brother has bought this place and given it to him, Arthur's displeasure instantly vanishes. After his older brother's emotions completely stabilize, Tommy prepares to go home. He never expects his tire to be deflated. Immediately after, Campbell's men approach, demanding that the Peaky Blinders immediately arrest Freddie and send him to the police station. Otherwise they will treat Ada as an accomplice. Hearing this, Tommy can no longer suppress his anger. But before he can think of a countermeasure, Danny brings back bad news. A rumor has already spread in London that the Peaky Blinders killed the Irish Republican Army. Tommy's expression instantly turns serious. However, the horse race tomorrow is even more important. So he tells Danny to return to London and inform the Irish Republican Army of the truth. If they do not believe it, they can send someone to negotiate. Early the next morning, Tommy brings Grace to the racetrack. He then confirms Kimber's location. He immediately comes to the dance floor under the guise of dancing. He successfully catches Kimber's attention. Meanwhile, the Peaky Blinders already gather at the docks. Everyone picks a suitable weapon. Even the youngest Finn is no exception. But John replaces his with a larger one. After finding the Lee family members, John directly beats them up. And Arthur even disfigures half of the man's ear.
I still rest, or I'll take the whole ear off, and you're going to need your ears to listen. No more choking on Billy Kimber's boys. Right? We're the protection now. I commandeer this stolen money by order of the Peaky Blinders.
After saying that, Arthur rushes towards the banquet hall. After getting the money stolen by the Lee family, Tommy directly pours it onto the table. He directly tells Kimber that if the Peaky Blinders handle the racetrack's security, he will save a lot of unnecessary money. In return, the Peaky Blinders will take 5% of the racetrack's profits, plus control over 3 legal horse races. After 1 year, the share will increase to 6%. The truth is just as Tommy expects. The assistant indeed agrees to the deal. Kimber proposes an additional condition, which is for Grace to accompany him for 2 hours. To show his generosity, he pushes his female companion forward. Tommy directly comes to Grace's front. When she hears she has to go to Kimber's manor for dinner, and that she has to go alone first, Grace instantly understands everything. but to complete the mission as quickly as possible. She pretends to be extremely reluctant and accepts the invitation. Subsequently, Tommy and the woman wait outside the manor. Grace is then led into the room. Kimber originally wants to use his money to persuade her, but he does not know he faces a secret agent. Seeing that Grace is unyielding, Kimber deliberately breaks a cup for Grace to inspect, attempting to assault her when she bends down. But Grace does not let him have his way. This time, Kimber is completely enraged. He directly rushes forward and begins to assault her. Just as Grace was about to draw her gun, Tommy suddenly burst in. Then, with a face full of apologies, he tells Kimber that Grace is a promiscuous woman and is also infected. As soon as he says this, Kimber's burning desire instantly extinguishes. On the way back, Tommy's face is full of indifference. He does not know why he changes his mind. He also does not know if this action will lead to the failure of their cooperation. However, he does not notice that Grace's eyes become intriguing at this moment. Soon after, Kimber arrives at the stall with his assistant. After confirming the Peaky Blinders personnel configuration, he directly hands the license to Tommy. As loud cheers erupt, the Shelby family officially obtains the qualification for legal horse racing. Afterwards, they go to the bar to celebrate. Unexpectedly, the Lee family takes the opportunity to launch an attack. When Tommy and his men receive the news, the stall is already in ruins, and the 4 boxes of cash placed there are all taken away. Aunt Polly wants to tidy up the room, but John stops her. On the battlefield, the gypsies love to set traps. Now that they leave the pliers here, there must be a detonator hidden nearby. Just as everyone feels uneasy, Tommy suddenly realizes that the Lee family wants to kill him the most. Since there is no explosion when they enter, the grenade must be placed where he usually is. Tommy quickly runs to his car, but Finn is turning the steering wheel inside.
Finn, stay exactly where you are.
I was pretending I was you.
Which door did you open to come in, Finn?
I didn't. I climbed in.
I want you to climb out exactly the same way you climbed in, okay? No, not Finn! That's why you should never pretend to be me.
After he calms Finn down, Tommy goes straight to the Lee family's camp. But he is not there to declare war, but rather plans to cooperate against Kimber. However, after he states his purpose for coming, the Lee family patriarch refuses to believe anything he says, fearing it is a trap set by him and Kimber. Seeing this, Tommy immediately brings up his gypsy heritage, attempting to use it to bridge the gap between them. Meanwhile, Grace discovers that the cigarettes always have a fishy smell, so she asks Arthur to change suppliers. However, she unexpectedly learns that these are all stolen by the Peaky Blinders and kept on a boat.
What's wrong with the dry warehouse?
Tommy's orders.
What orders?
Always keep contraband near petrol boat moorings.
Don't boats get searched?
We more than the junctions. So there's more than one way out. No looks of in a mile so we can move that stuff.
Upon receiving such important information, Grace quickly finds an excuse to leave the bar. According to Arthur's description, Campbell finds 3 matching locations. He then leads his men to search overnight. However, they find not even a single bullet. Immediately after, Tommy takes Grace to the church. Just as she feels uneasy, Tommy suddenly brings up Kimber's assistant. He then praises her temperament and demeanor. When she hears that she is to be the assistant, Grace agrees without thinking. At this moment, she is unsure if she does this for the mission or if she wants to stay by Tommy's side every day. Early the next morning, the Peaky Blinders gather near the Lee family camp. Seeing his brothers looking at him, John thinks a fierce battle lies ahead. So he takes a big swig of rum. But what he never expects is that Tommy makes no pre-battle arrangements. He just boldly charges into the enemy's firing range. He notices something is wrong. However, Everyone pulls out flowers, and Tommy even pins one on his lapel. He starts to panic. He knows this is something only done at weddings. When he hears he has to marry someone from the Lee family, he immediately refuses. As a direct descendant of the Shelby family and a core member of the Peaky Blinders, he will never marry a mushroom-picking gypsy woman. Seeing this, Tommy no longer hides the truth. He directly explains the situation between the two families. If they stop the wedding now, a bloody war will immediately break out here. Conversely, both sides will not only work together to take down Kimber, but the Lee family patriarch will also provide a luxury car as a dowry. Hearing this, his heart immediately begins to waver intensely. But in the end, he cannot resist the temptation of the luxury car. And after seeing the bride's appearance, he cannot help but laugh. As their blood mixes together, the Shelby family and the Lee family officially form an alliance. But just as everyone dances and celebrates, Ada suddenly goes into labor. The brothers quickly send her home first. When he hears Polly wants Freddie to come over, Tommy thinks for a moment and agrees. Then the three of them go to the bar to celebrate. After Freddie arrives, Ada has already given birth. Looking at the cute little one, Freddie is very excited. Unexpectedly, after only a few words, the police break into the room. The sudden scene makes Polly furious. She never expects Tommy to use such despicable methods, especially while her younger sister is giving birth. When she learns Freddie is arrested by the police, Ada leaves the Shelby family with her child. Tommy is full of shock. He cannot figure out who tipped them off. Little does he know, the person is Grace, who stands by his side. Just like that, Tommy is despised by the whole family. And what happens next almost makes him and Arthur become adversaries. On this day, someone on the Peaky Blinders territory privately organizes a boxing match. Arthur and John go to collect fees. They never expect the boxer to be their father. Arthur is very excited. He immediately brings his father home. Aunt Polly tries to drive him away, but due to her gender, she cannot speak up. Just as she is at a loss, Tommy finally returns.
How are you, son?
Get out.
Come on, son. I'm a changed man.
This family needed you 10 years ago, and you walked out on it. Not now. Get out of this house.
Tommy, he's different.
You shut up.
Seeing that Tommy and John refuse to forgive him, the helpless father has no choice but to leave. Arthur, unable to stand it, immediately explodes on the spot. Unexpectedly, Tommy would rather fight than let his father return. At this moment, the bond between the two brothers completely fractures. Arthur goes straight to the bar to get money, wanting his father to live more comfortably, completely disregarding the bar's situation. Grace takes the opportunity to ask the family why they send money to London every week. Arthur does not even think and immediately reveals the man's situation.
He was buried in his grave.
As soon as these words are spoken, Arthur immediately realizes he has let something slip. But it is too late. Arthur simply warns Grace a few times, and then takes the boy to find his father. He looks at his eldest son, who is like a resentful woman. The father immediately pulls out a piece of paper. It details the casino's scams and operating methods. He claims he has been staying in America for the past few years. Compared to the casinos there, the money earned by the horse racing industry is not even a fraction. If they could open one here, they would instantly become the strongest family in Britain. The two brothers are overjoyed to hear this and deeply believe their father's words. And when he learns there is no startup capital, Arthur even steals the family's remaining money. At the same time, Tommy faces new trouble. The Irish Republican Army finally sends someone, and it is a powerful and high-ranking brigadier general. The other party is very aggressive and believes that the Peaky Blinders killed their people. Tommy sees this and stops explaining. He states directly that the firearms are in his possession. They have become a huge burden, and if the price is right, he can sell them. As soon as he says this, the other party's attitude indeed softens. After they agree on a time for the transaction, the man leaves the pub without looking back. Meanwhile, Tommy goes directly to find Campbell, wanting to team up to eliminate the Irish Republican Army members, because he knows very well that once the other party gets hold of those firearms, they will definitely immediately eliminate the Peaky Blinders to silence them. As for the person who died earlier, He is merely a pawn pushed to the forefront by fate in this game. The truth is just as Tommy expects. Campbell indeed cannot resist the commander's temptation. After finalizing the plan, Tommy immediately returns to the bar without delay. He then teaches Grace how to use a gun, so she can help control the situation at a critical moment. To avoid any complications, Tommy repeatedly warns Grace not to shoot. At the appointed time, members of the Irish Republican Army enter the bar. After the transaction is complete, the other party indeed pulls out their weapons. However, villains often die from talking too much, so Tommy immediately seizes the opportunity to say the agreed-upon code. Unexpectedly, Grace directly pulls the trigger. Tommy does not have time to think and quickly wrestles with the commander. Grace tries to help but gets knocked down by a punch. During the struggle, the two roll onto the ground. Tommy's neck is locked, making him unable to attack. Just as he is about to suffocate, images of the battlefield suddenly flash in his mind. The intense stimulation instantly awakens his consciousness. The unsuspecting commander immediately lets go. Tommy quickly grabs a nearby spittoon. He furiously smashes the brigadier's head. Seeing Tommy, who looks like a beast, she is terrified. But then, this fear is replaced by concern. At this moment, she finally realizes she truly falls in love with Tommy. And this moment is coincidentally seen by the entering police officers. Soon, Campbell comes to demand an explanation. Seeing this, she no longer hides it and directly reveals the location of the firearms. In exchange, Campbell must not harm Tommy. After receiving an affirmative reply, she goes straight back to the pub. Campbell, on the other hand, leads people to dig up the grave overnight. Except for one Lewis machine gun, the remaining weapons are all recovered. Seeing her approach, he immediately takes off his hat, takes out a pre-prepared ring and proposes. She is startled at first. Then, forcing herself to suppress her disgust, she rejects Campbell and also tenders her resignation. For many years, she has always regarded Campbell as a father. But it turns out this old man has ulterior motives. Meanwhile, Arthur still waits for his father in vain. He chases his father to the station. Seeing his father chatting and laughing, Arthur approaches him in disbelief to question him. But he only receives cruel mockery in return. At this moment, Arthur finally realizes he has been tricked. He wants to snatch the money back. But he is no match for his father at all. Having no choice, he can only leave dejectedly. Afterward, Arthur returns to the boxing gym. Having made such a big mistake, he does not know how to face his family. So he prepares to end everything with ended. However, the rope's quality is too poor, it only makes him pass out. Soon, Tommy receives the news and rushes over. Looking at the ligature marks on his older brother's neck, he offers no comfort. He only takes out one of Arthur's business cards, which says Shelby Brothers Limited, a partner in a horse racing company. At this moment, Arthur finally knows how ridiculously wrong he was. And at the same time, he understands his younger brother's good intentions. Afterward, Tommy takes Finn to the cemetery. When he discovers the firearms have been dug up, he quickly tells Finn to go back and warn the family to hide, preparing to take the blame for stealing the firearms alone. But there is an even more important matter at hand, saying goodbye to the woman he loves. But just after a few words, the police arrive nearby. Grace doesn't care about regret. Immediately pulls Tommy and leaves through the back door. No sooner do the two leave than Campbell rushes in with his men. When he discovers that Grace and Tommy are not at the bar, Campbell immediately cancels the arrest operation. Then he comes alone to Grace's downstairs. He looks at the two figures embracing. At this moment, he feels very regretful. But no matter if he can let go, Tommy has already entered her heart. And he also cures the post-war syndrome that has plagued him for many years. Early the next morning, a refreshed Tommy goes to the tailor shop to pick up his suit. However, he unexpectedly learns that Campbell stayed here last night. Tommy finds it somewhat unbelievable. This place is ostensibly a tailor shop, but in reality, it is Birmingham's most exquisite brothel. Tommy walks into the room alone. He originally intends to bid farewell to this evenly matched opponent, but he is misunderstood as mocking him.
Before the day is over, your heart will be broken, just the same as mine.
After saying this, Campbell leaves without looking back. Tommy does not understand the meaning and dismisses it as a loser's outburst. When the appointed time arrives, Tommy gathers everyone to prepare for the Peaky Blinders' new future. Currently, the Lee family is already ambushed near the Worcester racecourse. As long as both sides meet after the doors open, an unprepared Kimber has no power to resist. At that time, the Birmingham racing industry will completely fall into their hands. With the big battle imminent, an unexpected person walks in. With Ada's return, the Shelby family completely unites. Meanwhile, Freddie is being transported to London for trial. But just as he despairs, the police suddenly unlock his handcuffs. Immediately after, the roar of a heavy machine gun comes from outside. When he discovers the person who arrives is Danny, Freddie instantly understands everything. Meanwhile, the Peaky Blinders are drinking a farewell toast, and Tommy takes the opportunity to propose to Grace. But she rejects him on the spot. Hearing that Grace is leaving Birmingham, Tommy finds it hard to understand. But before he can ask, Arthur walks in with a solemn expression. Someone sees two caravan trucks on Ford Road, and Kimber is sitting in one of them. Tommy does not have time to think further. He quickly urges Aunt Polly to take the family members and hide. Currently, the Lee family is still at the racetrack, relying solely on the Peaky Blinders themselves to fight Kimber. This is undoubtedly a desperate struggle.
But who else knew today was the day you were moving on, Kimber? I mean, you said you kept it a secret. Who else did you tell?
Facing Aunt Polly's questioning, Tommy freezes in place in disbelief. At this moment, he really wants to ask why Grace did this. However, Kimber gives him no chance at all. Looking at the enemy who holds a clear advantage, not a single person in the Shelby family backs down.
Get your weapons out, boys, and load them up. Take your time. Hold them up in the air so as they can see what we've got. All guns and no balls, right, Billy boy?
Just as Kimber thinks he has victory in his grasp, Freddie and Danny rush up from behind, and what he holds in his hand is precisely the missing Lewis machine gun. With the addition of heavy firepower, although the strength of both sides is not equal, there is not much difference. Seeing that the battle is about to break out, Ada suddenly bursts in, pushing a child, and she is also wearing mourning clothes.
What are you doing?
I believe you boys call this no man's land.
Ada!
Shut up and listen.
Have you lost your mind?
I said shut up! Now most of you are in France, so you all know what happens next. I've got brothers and a husband here, but you've all got somebody waiting for you. Now I'm wearing black in preparation. I want you to look at me. I want you all to look at me. Who'll be wearing black for you? Think about them. Think about them right now. And fight if you want to. But that baby ain't moving anywhere. And neither am I.
Under Ada's strong appeal, the fighting spirit of both sides instantly drops to rock bottom. No one wants to be the first to start a fight.
She's right, you know. Why should all you men die? It should just be them who's caused it.
Looking at Danny, who is hit by a bullet, Tommy finally reacts. He then pulls out his pistol and pulls the trigger. With Billy Kimber's fall, the Shelby family officially becomes the third largest legal horse racing company in the country. But behind the glory, a huge crisis also hides. They clearly know that they are about to face a more powerful and trickier opponent. The future path is full of unknowns and challenges. But they have no way back and can only move forward. This is the charm of Peaky Blinders. Because it tells not of victory, but of struggle and choice. When Tommy puts on his iconic newsboy cap and the brim pulls down, one sees not a gang leader, but a person fighting for his family, for dignity, and to rewrite his destiny in a desperate situation.